Good evening. How's everybody doing? I know I'm going to have some folks missing this evening, the day right after the holiday. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Be thankful for what you do have. Be thankful for what you have. We're going to get into some things here in a few minutes, and I'm going to give a little bit more time because I started just a little bit early. Wanted to make sure I didn't have any problems. Now, if you can hear me, please put in the chat box that you can hear me. Hi, Beverly. Can you hear me okay? Oh, good. Okay, good. Because I've been having trouble with my my computer with the sound for some reason, and I don't know if one of the other programs was trying to borrow the microphone while I was using it on this program. So, anyway, hi, Mr. Lucky. How are you? Hello, Helen. How are you? I hope everybody's doing okay. Hope you had a good holiday. Make sure you click the thumbs up. It helps promote the channel. So, I'm trying to get out as much information as I can to as many people as I can. And myself and some other YouTubers, a lot of us, I don't consider myself what they would call an influencer, someone that has, 100,000 subscribers and all that. I have a very small channel. However, I believe that if I can get some sense into people that's listening to me, that perhaps it would give them, some hints or something on how to talk to people that they may be having problems convincing that things are not great right now. So it's very helpful if you do click the thumbs up. It helps push the channel further up. One of the things that I noticed is I did a video a few couple months back that got nearly 3,000 views. And that was the first time that had happened. And it happened in like a 48-hour period, which has never happened for my channel. My channel has always been very tiny. And then that happened again, the next video that I did. And then all of a sudden it got to 400 and something on the next video and just stopped. And I went and looked behind the scenes where they keep track of your analytics, everything that's going on, and you could see where it was just a quick stop where they shut it off. So I know I'm over the target, right? Like myself and others have had that problem where they cut you off. What they do is they throttle you back so far till very few people will be able to see you or hear what you have to say. So that's why it's really dependent upon you guys to share the channel, right? I'm not getting paid no big money to do, I'm not getting paid to do what I'm doing. I'm just trying to help people. So anyhow, I ran across some interesting questions. Some came into different channels that I was listening to, and and then in a lot of the ones that you're going to hear tonight just came to my mind when I was thinking about some of the other things that I had heard. But before I get into that, I had been sharing with you guys. Hold on just for a second. My mouth is dry. I have been sharing with you guys some books that I had on natural medicine and stuff like that. And I think the last set of books that I shared with you all had to do with um, natural remedies for children, in case you wanted to make sure that you had enough herbal remedies and things set aside for your babies, your grandbabies, your great grands, whatever. Well, I ran across uh, three other books. One is still out there somewhere in the abyss. I'm waiting for it to get to my house. But in light of how the price is going with food, and in some places people are paying as much as $9 for a dozen eggs, and it's just hi JB. It's just been horrific for a lot of people. So I ran across this book. I haven't read it yet, but I did want to share it with you guys. It's called The Zero Waste Chef by Anne Marie Banu, or something like that. Let me show it. Ooh, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Hopefully, that's not backwards on your screen. But I wanted to show you that. I haven't looked at it yet, but the title caught my attention. um, and she has pictures and things in here, but I think it's just going to show us how to deal with less waste. I mean, you can't afford to waste anything now. The other one I found, and I found this interesting because I know for a fact that I can eat certain things and the next day I feel like a truck hit me. Well, I come to find out that certain things cause inflammation in me, right? It can make my joints hurt or whatever, which I did not know that. I found it out really by trial and error. And so I came across this book, which I hope somebody would find helpful. And this one is by Sarah Roslin. And so, and there's no pictures in this one, but she does have a lot of different recipes and things in here. I find that if I eat um, too much carbs, right? I don't mean complex carbs. I mean pasta. I'm not a big bread eater, although I'll bake bread. But I find that white flour and stuff, pastas and things, if I eat too much, which I don't know it's too much until the next day, I'll be aching everywhere. So anyway, see if you can find those. I got these from Amazon. The other one is dealing with no waste cooking as well, but I can't remember the name of it. And it is still floating around out there somewhere. So I guess it's coming. So let me get into the questions because I have like 8 questions. I think 2 or 3 came from me listening to these other channels. And then the rest of them I was just thinking about. Um, but there's a very real situation going on when people are living with family members or a spouse specifically that just doesn't get it. I mean, they just don't get it, and they don't understand for a couple of reasons or various reasons that there is a real problem that is facing the entire world right now. This is not something that is particular to the United States, right? So the problems that we're dealing with, the economic crisis, um, the diesel crisis, the fact that the transportation union, the train unions have decided that they are in fact going to strike. First, I heard the 5th of December. Now I'm hearing the 9th of December. And what we have to understand is that, like I said before, when the trucks were going to stop running, and they're going to slow down quite a bit if they run out of diesel. These different companies are going to have to ground their fleets because they're not going to be able to get the gas to take them over the road. It's going to be a very bad situation when these trains stop running. And the reason is because about 60 something, over 60% of our products are run by rail. They go across, from state to state by rail, and everything will just shut down. I don't want it to be. My concern is I don't want your spouse to wake up when everything shuts down. And then all of a sudden they get it, right? Well, then it's too late. So what do you do? And that's a real question. Now, I've been blessed in that my husband and I are in lockstep with this. Now, there are times when he might see me in the kitchen and I'm pressure canning something else. Well, I feel like my job is to cook it. His job is to find somewhere to put it, right? And he just kind of gives me this look like, oh no. But anyway, God bless him. He always finds somewhere to put it. So, and it's organized. So, I which is a problem sometimes because the way I had it is not necessarily the way he puts it. But anyway, so what do you do when you're married to a person or you're living with a person, whatever your situation is, and they don't get it? They think you're a conspiracy theorist. They or they'll say things like, "Well, I didn't hear anything about that on CNN," or something. Really? But I ain't even going there. Hi, Verindia. Hello, baby. My husband's on. Nunchella, how are you? So different people learn at different paces, right? And there could be a few reasons why he or she is in the mindset that they're in. Number one can be fear, right? It may not even be that they don't see what's happening. It could be that they do see it and they don't want to see it. It's so overwhelming, or it feels so overwhelming and so doomsday that they just psychologically or emotionally they feel like it's a train wreck inside. It's just not something that they can deal with. So they will go, it's the whole fight or flight mode. They'll flee. They'll just run away from it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to think about it. I had a family member tell me, who I was trying to drill into their head, that they needed to be doing something. And they said to me, when people work all day, they don't, and they've dealt with a bunch of mess on their job. They don't want to have to come home and deal with this kind of thing. Well, you know something? That doesn't change the reality of the fact that we are in trouble. Okay. And so if you work all day long, you may not want to come home and deal with your kids either, but they're there. So, and just because you don't want to be bothered doesn't make them go away. And just because people don't want to be bothered with the reality of this situation is not going to make it go away. So, this is what I would suggest. Um, because you don't want to create a dishonest environment in your home, right? But you do have to realize the fact that one of you is living in reality and the other one is not. And I think this is just my personal feelings because, like I said, I'm not in that situation. Um, I wouldn't be in that situation. And when I say that, what I mean is if my husband couldn't see it, that's his blindness. I'm going to eat. Okay. I'm still going to shop. I'm still going to do what I need to do to make sure that the household is as secure as possible. Now, we could do it one or two ways. I could cook for both of us because we have enough, or I can cook for me and you can watch me eat. But like I said, we're in lockstep. So I don't think it's a problem. It's not a problem here. So I think what a person would need to do, maybe, I don't know, give them the link to this video or look at one of my other videos that deals with the shortages and things that were coming, because sometimes people don't, they can't hear it from the person that's closest to them. I don't know what that's about. I think it's familiarity. I can't say the word. They're too familiar with you, right? They don't. They're so used to blowing you off if they don't want to hear anything till they won't listen. But if they hear it somewhere else from somebody that they don't even know, and they know that you haven't been in cahoots with this person, they might be like, oh, you know what I mean? It may make them stop and think. So share the video with them. And maybe by the grace of God, their eyes will open. Because when it lands on your doorstep, it's too late, folks. I'm telling you, when it gets to your door, it's too late. One of the things that's happening right now is some people are in denial about what's going on because it's not happening in their town. They don't see it yet, right? So, you can hear these different testimonies about, well, I went into our local store and it was fully stocked. Well, thank God. You better get what you need now because it won't be next month. right? Or it won't be 3 weeks from now. It will not be. So as bad weather starts coming in, people are going to look at what happened in Buffalo. Do you think those people? Let me tell you something. If they were in apartments and stuff like that, and they had not done anything, even though they were warned about storms coming and all that, I'm telling you, I saw situations where even truckers were stuck in their trucks. And one guy said, he said, this other guy helped me out. He said, because I didn't have I ran out of food and water. And I mean, just you talking about 6 feet of snow. So even if they don't believe that this is a worldwide issue that's going on right now, common sense would say every environment that you live in has its challenges, right? If you live on the coast, you're subject to hurricanes and El Nino and all that kind of stuff that we don't get here in the middle or the southwest of the country. We are subject to tornadoes and things and ice storms, things like that. So even if they don't believe, even if they think it's a conspiracy theory, when you're trying to talk to them about the stuff that's going on around the world and it's too overwhelming for them to deal with it, just maybe you need to speak to them or approach them from a common sense um, standpoint, where look at the natural disasters that happen. Look at the things that you know happens because you've seen it on the news or whatever. And in our area, we're subject to this, or in our area, we're subject to that. And the weather patterns are getting changing every year. So we need to put something aside in case we get caught up in something like that. We don't have to worry. Just keep praying and keep working on them. Don't be a nag, right? Just be careful. Pick your time when you may want to say something. And if you are absolutely in a situation where you cannot say anything because the person just loses it, they get triggered and they fly off the handle, then you may just, hi Margaret, you may just want to, whenever you go to the store, if you're picking up, 2 cans of green beans, get three, right? Just get three and put the extra one on the shelf, or just a little at a time, a little at a time. Don't go out and spend, $3,000 on food, because if they're getting triggered over green beans, that ain't gonna go well. I'm just saying, be careful. Be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Okay, just do your thing. Know your man, know your woman, and move accordingly. Right? You may have to take really small baby steps with them. So that was one thing. Another question that came in that I saw was about how do I this person was just buying stuff, buying stuff, buying stuff, and then the question was, well, how do I rotate my stock? Hmm. Well, now you need to think about that before you just buy a bunch of stuff. Okay, how you rotate your stock, it depends on what you're stocking, but it's always first in is the first out. Okay, in other words, if you buy something that's dated um, January of 23, and you have other things that are dated January of 24, then the things that are dated January 23 is going to be in the front of your shelf. It's the very front. So whatever date is coming up the soonest, that's the stuff that you need to use. I have a box that I use for canned goods. And I have a habit that, I'll go through my pantry um, two times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. And because when I buy something, I try to buy something that has at least a 2 year shelf life on it, right? And so I will go through my pantry and I'll look at the dates, and the stuff that's coming up that says best buy does not mean it's going to expire by that time. It just means it tastes better by that date. I will take those things and move them into my kitchen so that I'm using them right away, right? And things that are really, really close to that say Best Buy maybe within 90 days or 60 days or something like that. Again, I'll move them into my kitchen or I'll take them out to my RV so that I can use them out there. And that's how you rotate your stock. So the first stuff that you bought is the first stuff that you're going to use if the date is the nearest to expiring, if that makes sense. You understand what I'm saying? So yet again, I'll say this. If the date is January 23rd, January 2023, and you have other stuff that's January 2024 or 2025, that stuff is going to go behind your 2023 stuff. And you're going to use that first. Okay, so that's how you rotate your stock. So now, if you have not done that at all, then you have to go through your pantry and look at everything, try to categorize everything, have all your condiments in one place, have your salt and pepper and all that stuff in one place, and all your green beans in one place and your meat in another place. And that's how you do it. And even when you're pressure canning, or if you're buying in bulk, let's say, and you need to rotate that. What I do is I don't go by the date. Now, this is just me. I don't go by the date, for example, that's on a bag of rice. I don't go by that because I always put my rice in the oven anyway, and leave it in there for 45 minutes or so on 200 degrees, 225. I'll let it cool down completely. And then I vacuum seal it. That way I don't have to use oxygen absorbers, right? Because I kill off everything. I don't use the method of putting stuff in the freezer because there are bugs that do hibernate. So you can put something in the freezer for, 2 or 3 days. You take it out and they wake up. They think it's springtime, right? And I don't want to deal with the condensation because of the change of temperature between the freezer and the kitchen. So I put it in the oven, I let it cool off completely, and then I bag it up. So that's one other thing that you can do. And when you do bag it up, you put the date on it, or I put the date on it that I actually packaged it, not the date that was on the bag when I bought it, because I've reprocessed it, right? So, and the reason I did that was to extend the life of it. So I put the date that I actually processed it, and that goes on my shelf or in a container, and I'll put a piece of paper in there that tells me what's in that container and what the date is. So that's how I rotate that stuff. I hope that helps somebody. If you have any questions, make sure you put it in the chat, and I can try to catch them as I'm going. So there was another question. How do you do laundry if there's no electricity? Well, now let me tell you, to you young folks on it, might not know about this part. Back in the day, like before my mother had a washing machine and I was raised in the city, we put our clothes, well, my sister and I, we washed our own clothes. And I would fill up the bathtub with very, very hot water. I'd separate my clothes out by color and I'd wash them in the bathtub. And we had a clothesline. We had a basement where I lived because I'm from the Northeast originally. And we had basements in our homes there. So I would take my clothes, I'd wring them out, I'd wash them in the tub, rinse them in the tub, wring them out, put them in a big old basket, drag them down to the basement, hang them up on the clothesline, let them drip dry. How do you wash when you don't have no electricity? By hand. You do it by hand. Or there are, and you better hear them do this too, because Amazon is laying they're closing stores. But there are manual machines that you can get that are plastic. They're like big buckets that have a thing that you go up and down on it and you kind of beat your clothes like that. You can find a washboard, you can find a wash tub, put a washboard in it, scrub your clothes like that, rinse them, wring them out, hang them up. You won't die. Trust me, you'll be okay. So you'll have to do it by hand unless you have a Skookum solar system or some kind of a battery bank where you could actually hook up a washing machine to it get the wash done, and then hang them up and let it dry, because you really have to have some powerful um, generator or something to run a dryer. So now the problem is, if it's wintertime and if it's icy cold outside, your clothes are not going to get that dry. They're going to freeze. They're not going to get that dry if you try to hang them up outside. So you may have to go to the laundry. There's always that if there's electricity. So be creative. So another question was, should I start rationing my family? Um, this person was talking and they were concerned. Um, they were looking at the price of food and they were concerned about if they had enough. And well, it depends on how much you have, right? Now, some people have been prepping for years. I mean, they have been putting away food and rotating their stock and doing this for years, 10 years, 20 years, and they have a lot. They're pretty well off as far as what they have. However, um, that might not be your situation, right? Maybe you just started seeing this a month ago or 2 months ago or 2 years ago. So it really depends on how much you have. And let me tell you something. We're not coming out of this anytime soon, folks. Okay. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. It doesn't even matter who gets into office in 2024. That's 2 years from now. And if this much damage has been done in just 2 years, and we have two more to go, yeah. So we're not coming out of this anytime soon. The reality is that our country and other countries, Germany, Austria, are headed for a depression. That's a fact. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you the truth. And so um, you may want to look up and see what those people did to survive during that time. Um, we're not coming out of this anytime soon. So it depends on what you have in your pantry now. And this is why it's important that you keep moving forward, that every time you can, you pick up an extra can of something or an extra bag of something. Because what's going to happen is the price of food is going to become so ridiculously expensive and astronomical till certain food items will become out of your reach. You just won't be able to do it because you're on a fixed income or whatever raise your company, your boss, if you still have a job, so there's that, is giving you is not keeping up with the rate of inflation, right? And so at some point, it's not going to be worth it to you to buy those eggs, or it's not going to be affordable for you to buy the heavy cream that you would have bought, 4 years ago, to make a pie or to make, whatever. It's just not going to. It's going to be some things that you use every day now. You're going to be looking at it like it's a luxury item. It's not something I have to have. And unfortunately, it's going to take some things like that for people to understand how blessed they had been all along, and that they just kind of took it for and never said thank you. And that's why I said at the beginning of this broadcast, be thankful for what you do have. Because, 2 years from now, you may not have it. It's just that simple. So, as far as rationing, ask yourself, with what I have right now, how far could I go if I continue to eat with the same habits that I eat with now, right? For example, if for whatever reason, if for dietary purposes, or maybe you're diabetic or something like this, you have to eat a certain amount of meals per day, do you have enough food to last you, for 3 years, for 2 years, or how much do you have? So that's what determines whether you need to start rationing or not. So when this person says, do I need to start rationing my family, I was thinking, well, it depends. It depends on how much you eat. It depends on what you eat. Like, is it necessary to have the junk food? No. um, Is it necessary to have the seafood all the time? Yeah, no. You may have to change your diet. You may have to change the way you cook. You may have to change some of the types of things that you eat, right? In order to make stuff stretch. You may have to learn more. This is where potluck might come in handy, right? You may have to learn how to cook differently. In other words, if you weren't a person that really could be bothered with casseroles, not because you didn't like them, but just because you didn't want to take the time to put one together. Well, you may find that combining some things like that will make a meal go further because it's bulked up. It lasts longer in your gut, it processes more slowly, and you're not hungry as often. So that's one way where you could naturally ration yourself. Um, I find that certain foods that are high in protein, because I'm a protein person, I could never be a vegan, I'd die. But anyway, I would just wither and die. I can't do it. But I'm a protein person. And so I have to have protein. And if I don't, I am voraciously hungry, you know. So, um, but I found that if I eat stuff that's high in protein, it can last me where I don't have to eat a meal. I don't eat 3 meals a day anyway, but I might skip a meal because I'm not hungry. I don't eat when I'm not hungry. I eat when I am hungry. Now, some people may say, well, you should eat several small meals a day. Okay, let me tell you the problem with that. The problem with that is every time you eat, your body releases insulin to help digest that food, break it down so that your body can process it, right? If you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, that could be a problem. You don't want to keep throwing your blood sugar out of whack like that. You know, it doesn't matter even what you're eating. Your body needs the insulin to help process the food. And so it could throw you into some other health problems, right? So you may want to scale back on that. Some people have scaled back on that um, in the way of rationing by doing what they call intermittent fasting. Now, you know, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get into all that, but you can look it up and look into that. I don't do it. I haven't done it. Doesn't mean I won't do it, but I haven't had to do it because I don't eat all the time anyway. Believe it or not, I really don't. so so I just it's just that the stuff I eat. I like rich food anyway. Praise the Lord. Okay, so all right. So should you ration? It depends on what you have. It depends on what do you feel secure about, right? Some people, when they are uh, rotating their preps and stuff like that, they look at long-term storage. So people that are putting away food for long term, they're not looking to be hungry no time soon. If they're prepping, say rice or beans or grains or couscous or whatever it is for 25 years, they ain't trying to be hungry. Okay, they're looking down the road and they're saying, "Yeah, I'm going to buy 100 pounds of I don't know, pinto beans or red beans or whatever, and I'm going to put them away." Now, I'm going to tell you right now, pinto beans, dried beans are not going to last you no 25 years. I don't care what they tell you, they're not. Beans have life in them. That's why if you put them in a wet paper towel and let them sit for a few days, they will sprout. Why? Because the life is inside of it, right? If it doesn't have oxygen or something else to keep it alive, it will die. So they ain't gonna last you no 25 years. And if you try to cook it, it's gonna be like a little rocks, okay, because they'll be dead. But anyway, but other things like rice and grains, things like that might last you that long. And and so people that are prepping for 25 years, 30 years, they're not looking to be hungry. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're looking down the line and they're doing things like that, right? So um, I suggest that a person continues to prep, continue to look down the line, buy one extra thing or two extra things or whatever you can afford. Now, you may need to look at your budget. If you don't have one, get one. But you may need to look at your budget and say, okay, I'm spending X amount of dollars on lunch for my job every month. And I'm going to cut back on what I'm buying for lunch and I'm going to take leftovers instead. And the money that I was spending for lunch, right? Maybe you were eating lunch out every day, 5 days a week. You cut that down to 3 days a week, and then those other 2 days you take that money that you would have spent for lunch, you go to the store, you buy something that's shelf stable and you put it in your pantry, right? That's one way you can do it. If you're on a very tight budget, you're going to have to change things up because you have to work within your means, right? You have to be able to work with what you have. You don't have what you don't have, right? So that means you're going to have to get some wisdom about what you do have and how to manage it. So you may have to ration until you get to a place where you feel somewhat comfortable with what you have and you know that, well, I've got enough, it can last me at least a couple of months, and then when I get to the 1 month mark, I'll start thinking about what about another month. You may have to take small steps, but the idea is to do something, right? So the next question, and this is a serious question too, especially for people who have land. Okay, how do I protect myself and my family during times of desperation, right? When when you think of times of desperation, which is now, when people are I was listening to a news report, Target, um, and I can't remember the name of the other store. They are suffering from 50% loss because of theft. Okay. How do you protect yourself and your family? Well, it depends on what you mean by protect. Uh, there are some amendments in place to deal with some of that. And the rest of it is some common sense. The rest of it is some things that you can do. Um, if you have land, for example, now, um, depending on how much land you have, if you're concerned about people coming onto your property, maybe you have deer on your land or something like this, and you don't want people coming on your property shooting your deer because that's your food, right? If you hunt, that's your that's your food. And you don't want people firing rounds on your property anyway if you have a family, particularly. Um, you may have to put up trail cameras, right, to be able to monitor your property. I don't have trail cameras because I don't have a lot of land. Now, even where I do have land, I'm able to look out. It's 3/4 of an acre, right? So I mean, I can see it. There's no, I don't have a big heavy tree line or anything like that obstructing my view. I do have some trees, but they really don't obstruct my view. They're high enough up, and the branches are high enough up that if I look out my window, I can just look past the trunks of the trees and I can see what's going on, right? So, and I have windows all the way around, so it's not a big deal. But you have people that have, 10 acres, 20 acres, 25 acres, and they're concerned about their families and how do they protect their families. You're going to have to beef up your security if you're concerned. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to learn. You may want to take some self-defense classes if you can afford to do that, if you can find someone that's teaching them anymore. Um, and look into maybe a security company that can help monitor your property and your home if you're not there. Okay, that's could be a very worthy investment if you have the money and you're able to do that. And like I said, self-defense courses, things like that. And let me tell you something that's going on. There's a lot of snatch and grab stuff that's going on, and it's not happening just in stores. There are people that are being attacked walking to their cars from the grocery store. They're being robbed, okay? They're being mugged and jumped and their food taken from them. Um, One of the problems that's happening in Costco and Walmart and places like that, is people are, and depending on if you're living in a state with a very liberal defund the police kind of an environment where the police are not coming to, they're not coming to help you. They're just not coming to help you. They have been told by the mayor and the police chief to stand down, right? So they're not coming to help you if someone mugs you or hurts you or take, they don't even come to help Walmart or anybody else when people are loading up shopping carts full of food and just walking out of the store. They just, who are they going to call? Because the police have already been told to stand down. So right now we're living in an environment under an administration where lawlessness is the rule of the day. Okay. If you're trying to be a law abiding citizen and you're trying to do things the right way, you're going to get called all kinds of names. Okay. But if you go into a store or if you come into the country illegally or you do all these other kinds of things that there are clear laws against, you're not going to get any help in a lot of states. Okay. There are some states that aren't going to tolerate it. But if you're living in one of those states with one of these woke governors or something like that, they don't care about you. Okay. So you're on your own, and you and your family need to sit down and have a conversation about not going shopping alone, especially if you're a woman. Okay. You need to be accompanied by someone depending on what area of town you are shopping in. Some places will become too dangerous for you to go to. So you're going to have to keep up with what is happening in your area. You may need to make a visit to the police station and find out what has become a high crime area in your city so that you can avoid that place, okay? Because a bag of sugar ain't worth getting killed over. It's just not. So be careful, keep your head on a swivel, learn self defense if you can afford to pay for it, get trail cameras if you can afford to get that to keep an eye out on your property. Um, and get the kind where you can go, you'll need to change your password. Let me tell you that. But you can go on the internet and look up your particular address on your trail cameras and you can look around and see what is happening on your property. Okay, so you may want to consider doing something like that. If you can afford it, pay a bodyguard. I can't afford it. So, anyway, someone else asked the question, how do I know when I've done enough? How do I know when how much is enough? When do I stop? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, every time I think I'm finished, I'm not. Okay. Every time I say, my poor family, they know too. Every time I say, okay, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. And they just look at me and say, no, you're not. No, you're not. And then I think of one more thing. I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't do that, or I didn't think of that, or because what you want to do is you want to be able to have an environment in your home that is as close to normal as possible, especially if you got young ones there, especially if you got kids or babies there. You don't want their whole life upset because the world has gone nuts. Okay. So you want to create an environment that is as normal as possible for them, right? And for you, the kid. You don't lose your mind in the middle of the craziness. You hold on to your own sanity. So um, you stop when you feel that what you've done is sufficient. Some people say, I heard one lady say, stop when you run out of room. Well, that's not a good thing to tell somebody who has a problem with collecting things, okay? They don't run out of room until it all falls over them and they die. And that's a real problem, okay? That's a mental illness. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your home still looks neat, if it ever did, if it didn't work on that. But if your home still looks neat, it looks lived in, but it doesn't look like you got boxes and stuff stacked up to your ceiling in every single room that you live in. That ain't what I'm talking about. Okay. You have a designated area where you're taking care of things like that so that the rest of your home is as normal as possible. Okay. You don't want to end up in the loony bin because your family thinks that you got a problem, right? Okay. So How much is enough? When do you know to stop? When you feel secure enough. That really is a very personal decision that you have to work out within yourself. Um, People can get to the end of any situation and look at it and say, I've done all I can do, right? And when you get there, then you know that's it. So, another question was, should I plan to leave my home? Should I just leave? Okay, there is a channel on YouTube called Bugging In, and it is really dealing with people who cannot leave. And for a lot of reasons, people cannot leave. You may have mobility issues that will not allow you to leave in time of a crisis, right? You may be in a situation where you have a family member. Mr. Lucky, not even looking at your window, but I have seen your house on video. Work on that. Anyway, you may be in a situation where you have an aging parent, right, or a disabled child, a handicapped child, or whatever, where you can't leave your home. You cannot. So you have to fortify your home. You've got to put money and energy, elbow grease into fortifying your home and making it the most secure place you possibly can, because that is where you're going to be. You can't leave, right? So whatever that situation is, you have to take a step back, look at it and say, okay, worst case scenario, we can't get out of here. What do we need to do to stay as safe as possible? And that's what you're going to have to do. This is why when you go to the store, picking up one more can of something is so important, because you may be in a situation where you absolutely can't leave your home. You just can't. I had a lady tell me that her mother was aging. She has Alzheimer's. She says, I can't leave. She says, we have to stay here. Well, that's what you have to plan for. Some other people, they may have another property, right, that they could go to, and they have maybe they've split their preps between their homes, the one that they spend most of their time in and the one that they visit occasionally. They may, have some things over there in case they have to get out in a hurry. And so, but here's the thing: if you do need to leave, right, or if you feel like when stuff goes crazy and I have to get in my car and get out of here in a hurry, or I've heard of something, whether it's bad weather or whether it's just, nut jobs running through the streets and the police ain't coming, and you want to get out before they get to you. If you're thinking that way, that I'm going to have to go, I want to give you a couple things to think about. Number one, get a waterproof bag that's big enough, or a couple if you need to, that's big enough to hold, number one, any medical stuff that you absolutely have to have, waterproof. Okay. Um, get your documents together, put them in one bag. Okay. Important papers, your passports, your whatever, have all of this stuff together, because you don't want to find yourself in the middle of a crisis. Now, all of a sudden, you hear something happening and you're running around trying to find out, where did I put this? Where did I put that? I know I put it here. I thought I put it there. Things that you think you're going to need, your birth certificates, your passports, your insurance papers, things like that. Put it together in a waterproof bag and keep it nearby where it's easy to grab it and go if you have to. Okay. If you have another place that you can go to, it's easy to grab that stuff and take it with you, right? So that's one thing. Um, and if you do have to leave, make sure you do secure your home behind you and take as much with you as you can. If you have assets with you, if you have assets in the safe, don't forget your safe, okay? Don't try to take your safe itself, but get the contents out of your safe, because after you leave your property, you may or may not be able to go back to your property for quite some time. And that doesn't prevent other people from going into your property. Okay. So you want to take as much valuables out with you as you possibly can. Don't leave them there to be robbed. Okay. So I need to take a look here and see. Look, Miss Lucky said he's been prepping for 30 years. I know. See, this is what I'm saying. There's some people that have been doing it forever. Someone says, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. How can I buy extra stuff? One can at a time, my friend. One can at a time. Dollar store is your friend. Wherever you can get it the cheapest, look for deals. Okay. Just look for deals because food right now, the powers that be would have you think that we're only at 7%, inflation. That's a lie. When eggs go from, 74 cents for a dozen to $9, I'm sorry, that's more than 7%. Okay. So and I don't even like percentages, but I got better sense than that now. So don't listen to them. Don't do when you go to the store, you let your eyeballs be your guide and say, yeah, that's a whole lot more expensive than it was just last week, right? Now, let me tell you this. One can at a time, one bag at a time. Don't go into debt trying to do this stuff, okay? Just sit down, reallocate your funds. Sit down, start whittling things out, things you don't need. Sell whatever you don't need. It might be nice to have. Does it have any value? Yeah, okay, sell it. You need the cash. And that's the other thing. That was another question that came up. How much cash should I keep with me? What happens if the banks, because that's a whole nother video, folks. What's happening with the banks? Oh my God. The credit unions. Now, they weren't doing this before, but they just received permission from the government to do what they call bail ins. Okay. What's a bail in? That's when they're about to become insolvent and they can literally seize your accounts, take your money to keep themselves afloat. Yeah, it's called legalized theft. Okay. That's what that is. Now, the banks have done this before. The banks did a bailout. They did a bail-in. Well, the government, if you remember in 2008 or 2009, I think it was when it was Obama's first year. Um, George Bush left the country in quite a big financial mess, and with the war and all that kind of stuff. And then President Obama did a bailout for the banks. Well, guess what? Guess who paid for all that? Taxpayers. You know why? Because the government doesn't have any money. That's why they tax you. They don't have money. They get it from the taxpayers. All this money that's going overseas, helping all these other countries with their heating problems and their food problems and their war problems and all their issues is coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. We are $31 trillion in debt right now. Right now. And you didn't do none of it, but you're going to pay for it. So if you're a taxpayer, you're going to pay for it. If you're not a taxpayer and you're on a fixed income, you're going to pay for it. You know how? Because of the rising cost of inflation. That's how they get it back from you. So that's right, Beverly. We always pay in the end. So if you have extra things that you can get rid of, then do that because you need the cash. Now, how much cash? That's a good question. How much cash you need depends on what are your monthly expenses, right? Now, I'm not talking about nice to have stuff. I'm talking about, how much gas do you spend going back and forth to work or going back and forth to medical appointments? You have got to get on a budget. If you've never done it, you got to get on a budget. You got to start. The best way to start, which will be kind of tricky to do right now, because how quickly prices are going up. But what I used to tell people was to take a month, and every time you went to the store, it didn't matter whether it was a convenience store, if it was McDonald's, if it was grocery shopping, Amazon, Etsy, whatever, give yourself a solid month where you save every single receipt, every one, online receipts, cash receipts, checks. At the end of the month, add it all up, look through those receipts and see what was a necessity. What wasn't a necessity, yeah, don't buy that again. Okay. That'll save you some money right there. What was a necessity, you want to add that all up. What is a reoccurring thing? For example, your electric bill, your gas bill, your water bill, right? Things like that. What is that costing you? Round it up, right, to the nearest number. That's a reoccurring debt that you're going to have every month, right? Credit card, whatever is a reoccurring debt. Add all that up. That's how much cash you're going to need. And that's plus groceries, right? Any medicine that you may have to buy, whatever your monthly expenses are. This is cutting out the nice to have stuff. This is cutting out the popcorn and the snack cakes and the cokes, and this is cutting out going to the movies. This is cutting out everything, folks. I mean, we are way past that. All right, we are in a we have got to survive this mode. So write down what all of your expenses are. If you had to, let's say you were in an area where they did a rolling blackout and you still got to pay your bill, right? You still, because whatever your bill is from what you've already used. They're not charging you for electricity you haven't used yet. So whatever your bill you got this month, this is for power that you used last month. Whether you actually use it or not, they're charging you because you're in the house, right? So they're going to want to get paid, right? Their office might be in Houston, Texas, and here you're living in San Antonio, whatever. I don't know. But anyway, they're going to want to get paid. Your only other choice, if the bank is down and if there's a rolling blackout, is to maybe go to the post office and get money orders to mail these things off because they're still going to want to get paid. You understand what I'm saying? So, whatever your monthly expenses are, you need to have twice that in cash because you don't know how long the blackout would last. You don't know how long the electricity would be out. Um, I heard of a situation once where people were out of electricity for nearly 6 weeks. Well, their bills still had to be paid, right? Even if they couldn't get online or get on the internet to do anything, you're going to trot yourself down to the post office, get some good old fashioned money orders, fill them out, keep your receipts, and mail it in. That's all you can do, right? So I would recommend, not that I am a financial advisor, I'm just telling you this is what I have done before. I made sure I had a minimum of 2 months of all of my expenses set aside in cash in case something like that happened. Okay? So, does anybody have any questions? I don't even think. Let me look on here. Y'all just chatting away, and I didn't even. Let me look. Any questions? You guys make sure you hit that thumbs up. Mr. Lucky said, I try to keep 10 tons of dried products at all times. That's good if you have the space, right? A lot of people don't have the space. If you are living in a condo or you're in an efficiency apartment or something like that, you really have to get creative about where to keep your stuff and how to keep your stuff. And it's so funny because I go on these different prepping channels on YouTube and look and see what are people talking about? What are they doing? Where are they keeping their stuff? And I'm telling you, these people are very creative. Some of the stuff they're doing. One lady said she had just moved into a farmhouse, and so they were in the process of renovating some things. And she said there was a closet at the end of the hall that used to be used. I guess it used to be like a linen closet or something. But they keep their stuff in their room, their linens and stuff in their respective bedrooms. She gutted the linen closet, put shelves in, and did it, used it to expand her pantry. I'm like, well, okay then, okay, whatever works, honey. So, she expanded her pantry like that, and she's on a farm, so that's what she did. Other people said they used sweater boxes and things like that to put canned goods in, and they just slide it under their bed. And you have more room than what you probably have thought of. But one of the keys is getting rid of stuff that you don't need and making good use of the space that you do have, and still maintaining a healthy environment where nobody has to call Department of Health on you and have you carted away because you nasty. Okay. just just keep your house livable, and where it's easy for you to get around in, where you don't cause a hazard to yourself or someone else, right? So just be creative, look around and say, what can I do with this? How can I change this? Like, you may have a linen closet that you don't need to use it for linen. You might be the only one there. Or tell everybody else, let's divvy up the linen. You're going to keep your linen in your room. I'm going to keep mine in my room. He's going to keep his in his room, and we're going to use that for dry goods, or whatever, right? So there you go. Well, folks, coat closet. That's right, JB. You can pack any luggage if you have luggage. However, if you're not going to be bugging in and you're going to be bugging out, you better get another set of luggage, because you got to have something to put your clothes in if you have to go, right? If you're one of the people that you're going to have to leave your house to be safe, then you need to have something to put your clothes in. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. I try to only do an hour. There was one time I did an hour and 45 minutes, but that was y'all fault. Y'all kept making me talk. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Please share this channel. I hope that some of the ideas that I've shared with you would help someone else. And I hope it helped you. And if it did, please let me know. You can write me at my email address, which is in the description box, but I'm going to put it right here for you in the chat. You can write me there with any questions that you have, or any concerns that you have. If I have an answer for you, I will let you know that. If I don't have an answer for you, I'll let you know that. I ain't going to just blow smoke up your butt. Okay. I'll tell you the truth. So thank you guys for coming on. And I do hope that you're taking this stuff seriously. There's so much more to talk about, but I don't want to do it all in one video. And make sure make sure you check into these books. Some of you guys weren't on when I mentioned these books, so I'll mention it again. This is to help you cut down on waste, right? When you're cooking and stuff, so that you're not throwing away a lot of food, just calling it garbage. Um, and the other one was part of taking care of your health, right? Find out what foods are causing inflammation in you, and work around that, right? Don't eat that stuff, because it'll trigger arthritis and all kinds of stuff. You may already have these issues, and then you eat some type of food like white sugar will trigger arthritic pain in me. And I found that out. So I stay away from white sugar as much as possible, and I'll use um, raw sugar, because it's not processed like that, and it doesn't cause me pain. So anyway, I do hope I helped you guys. I really, really do hope that I said something that helped. And please pass the information on. Please, let's beat the algorithm and just share the channel, because I'm telling you, YouTube is trying to. And tell the people, when you share it, tell them to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the notification bell. Myself and a whole lot of other YouTubers have found out that people have not been getting the notifications, and they go in and they look and they've clicked it, but YouTube is not sending it out because they don't like what we're doing. They really don't. They're part of a whole nother little cabal, and they don't like the fact that we're trying to do what they're not doing, and that's help people. So God bless you guys. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I will be on again before Christmas. I promise, Lord willing. Let me say that. I hope to come on before Christmas, and we'll hang out again soon. Thank you so much again for coming on. Share the channel, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and I'll see you guys the next time I come on. God bless you. Take care.